Hey there, Jack and Jill, motorcycle out there in YouTube land. We're back with my R90/6 from 1976 to do another Airhead Maintenance 101 video. This time we're gonna do the air filter, which is something I meant to do last time before I ran into all that trouble. And I'm just getting back around to it now. It's been, I don't know, a couple of months. This is a pretty simple thing to do. I'm gonna do a little bit more than I need to show you what's going on. But in general, you only need a couple of tools. I'm gonna take the fuel tank off, which, you know, people say you don't necessarily have to do. I find it makes it easier. It also will make it easier for you to see what's going on. This is a genuine, made in Austria BMW air filter. It looks just like every other air filter you've ever used, maybe just bigger than what you typically see on your motorcycle, and a cylinder instead of flat. I'm gonna walk you through this. I'm gonna show you the tools you need. And once again, you can see we're at Morton's BMW, where they have kindly given me some space and the ability to do these videos. I wanna thank them very much, both the management and the staff. Fantastic place, and I'm really enjoying my time here. So, as you can see, I have removed the saddlebag on the right side of the bike. That's not because that's how you get to the air filter. It's because I'm gonna pull off the fuel tank. And if I don't take off that saddlebag, my seat won't open all the way. That's just a peculiarity of this bike. The tank comes off pretty easy. There's two bolts, or two 10mm nuts, the ubiquitous 10mm right here. And then you remove the fuel fittings so that the tank will come off, just to make sure you don't spill a bunch of gas. So first come the nuts. Some people have wing nuts on these, other people don't. Some people have nylock nuts on these, other people don't. My experience is they don't tend to come loose unless you're fiddling with them. If you just snug them down, they don't need to be, you know, gorilla tight, just snug. Yeah, these are nothing special. So I'm gonna stick those in my pocket where I'll probably forget they are. I'm gonna pull the fuel hose off the petcock on each side. Don't forget you have two petcocks. There's no real trick to taking the tank off. You just wanna do it when it's not full of gas. So I think I have about 1.5 gallons, maybe a little bit less. So it should be nice and light. And then you're gonna wanna lift up from the back, and there's a pivot on the front that you can't see yet. I'll show it to you when the tank is off. So lift up from the back and then slide it back out. It is a little easier if your seat is all the way off, but I don't want to take the seat all the way off, so we're gonna do it slightly the hard way, but it's not that much harder. You lift up to clear the studs that it secures to, and you just kind of until it comes loose. And there you go, tank's off. Different angle here, but it lets you see the components that we got to work around. This is under the tank. This is the master cylinder for the front brakes. You probably should hit that with a little paint. You can see there's some paint damage to the frame where the old, I mean, this is the original one, but it leaked before. So this is a good opportunity to check the master cylinder and make sure it's not leaking. Here's the pivot for the tank. There's a little rubber cap on it that is easy to misplace or lose. And then here's the brake line, and then some electrical components for the bike. Here's the air intake. This is your choke mechanism. Rotate that out of the way. And you can see I've kind of burned up the thing. That might be slightly a little too short. So you want to pay attention to where the screws are. Here's the screw that you need to undo, but first we have to undo this little hose assembly that goes to the carburetor. Because we're doing that, I brought the O-rings that are under there to replace that, and I'll do the one on the other side as well. You don't have to remove the choke assembly from the cover, but some people do that just to make it a little bit easier. It's not necessary. You don't have to absolutely do it. And it's just the one screw on this side. On mine, it's a flathead screw. If yours has been replaced, it might not be a flathead. You can see this is kind of a two-part assembly. That's oily, so I'll pay attention to that. And then here's the O-ring we're gonna replace when we're done with all this. This is a long bolt but it's only threaded on the very end. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a little bit of a hassle to get back in, but it's worth the effort. So you can see mine's a little oily, and I'll show you why that is in a minute here. Yeah, this is not connected to the cover. You can actually use the edge of the choke assembly to help get this off. And I rode the bike up here, so it's a little bit warm. Not terribly so, but. So there, now you can see the whole air filter, which is just stuck in there. And you want to look inside the cover and see if there's any oil in there. And the filter itself just pops right out. So as you can see, my filter's kind of dirty. It's only got probably 3,000 miles on it or so. That's not terrible. I wouldn't be upset to leave that in there for another couple thousand miles, but since I'm able to show you how to do this, we're just gonna go ahead and toss that. So while you're in here, you wanna check your crossover fuel cable, if you have one. You also wanna check that your breather here is doing its job. We'll be able to check that a little better on the other side when we pull that other hose. So here you can see the two air filters side by side. Here's the one that just came out, and here's the one that's going in. Now, it doesn't really matter what direction you put it. I like to put it where the part number, I can see the part number when I open the cover, but it doesn't really matter which direction you put it in. Over here is a hose that comes from the crankcase, and fumes and even liquid oil sometimes, if you've overfilled your bike especially, will come into that hose, and it's hard to see. Trust me, it dumps it into the hole where the air goes, which goes down in the carburetor, which then runs those gases and any oil back through the engine to combust. It's also a good idea to just take an eyeball in here and make sure it's not dirty. Clean out what you can. If you were gonna remove the other side cover, you would have to take this off. And this is one of the things that makes this just a little bit fiddly to get back in. Not that bad, but here you can see that's the other end of the bolt that goes in. And actually my bolt's a little warped, I can see now. Not a big deal. The new air filter goes in. It'll hold on to that lip if you let it. You just get it positioned so it's on there. And then you gotta wiggle and grunt till this thing goes back in the way it's supposed to. And like I said, it's not difficult, but it is a little fiddly. The cutout over the crossover, there's a slot for this bolt. And then you've gotta kind of fit this part here under the edge of that. So it's a little bit like a puzzle, but it's definitely doable. And you got to kind of make sure that the filter is trapped properly between all the pieces. And it just takes patience, which is not really something I'm super good at. There we go. All right. Now, in my opinion, the hardest part is getting that bolt back in because it's long and you got to find the other end. It goes right through the middle of the air filter. And you just kind of go with it until hopefully you feel it catch a little bit on the threads. And if you got it right, which I did, I cannot believe I got that on the first try, folks. You're witnessing a minor miracle here. And then you want to get that snug. It'll kind of come to a stopping point. You're done. Now, I said I'm going to replace these O-rings, and oops. It's not in terrible condition, and I'm just using a little probe. I think I got these at Harbor Freight. But since it's off, it's a good time to go ahead and clean that and replace those O-rings. All right, we're gonna wipe out the carburetor part, or the hose parts. And this outer hose is stepped. It's a little hard to see, but there's a ridge inside it, and that's so that it fits snugly onto the more rigid pipe. And then you put one hose clamp on this, holding this to the big hose, and then one hose clamp holding this to the air filter cover. So like I said, I'm gonna clean off these parts while I'm here. You wanna make sure that all your hose clamps are also clean. Actually, that's gas, not grease. So you wanna make sure the heads of your hose clamps are all pointed the same direction and that they're all on the hoses before you start putting the hoses back on. So you make sure they're all pointed the same direction. That makes them much easier to secure, and that they're all on. Now this is a little chewed up and cracked, so I should probably order a new one of these. So I'll go from here to the parts counter and I'll order a pair of these, because if one's cracked, the other one's probably cracked too. There we go. So, like a lot of things on a motorcycle, you got to kind of wiggle it into place. And then you want to make sure the two big hose clamps go up here and the smaller one goes down here. And I like to put them all where I can see them, which makes them easier to get to when I need to. And if you just put a finger on them when you start to tighten them, they'll stay put. All right, so that's actually it. I could put the tank back on, which again is a little fiddly, but it's not difficult. But since I knew I was gonna have the tank off, I brought some electrical stuff to do. So what I added was the permanent power for my B-Line Moto 2. So it's mounted up here, and the wire comes down, goes under the frame rail, and then hooks to the battery, which is under the toolbox. So it's not switched, so I do have to remember to take it off whenever I stop, or it'll, kill the main battery. But now all that's left is for me to put the fuel tank back on my bike, and you just kind of got to wiggle it in. It hooks up here. This is the pivot, and then the two studs. And I just have to make sure that I ran the wire so that it wasn't on the sides where it would interfere with the tank. So once again, it's not hard, it's just fiddly. Definitely a little easier to do with the seat off, but you don't have that. And there we go. Back on, and I put the nuts in my pocket. There's the nuts. And one of the reasons people use wing nuts instead of these is because wing nuts are a little harder to drop. These are really easy to drop, so you do. And I always run them down finger tight and then just snug them with the wrench, because they don't need to be super duper tight. That is the wrong wrench. 10 millimeter. Make sure your seat still closes. All right. So that's all there is to it. The air filter is easy, it's relatively quick, and it gives you an opportunity to check out the hoses that are connecting your carburetor to your airbox. In my case, I need to replace those. Not a big deal. I ordered them at the parts counter. They'll be here in a week or less. It was, other than, if you don't take your tank off, it's one tool, a screwdriver. If you do take your tank off, you might need a 10 millimeter wrench. Super easy to do, and something that you should do, I would say at least once a year if you ride your Airhead regularly. You can do it on a mileage thing. You can do it every 5,000 miles or every 10,000 miles. Mine was pretty dirty at about 5,000 miles. So I'm gonna make a note in my maintenance log to check it again in 5,000 miles and see if I need to replace it. Air filters are cheap insurance against crap getting into your combustion chamber. As you saw, it's a direct shot from the hole where the air filter is, straight into the carburetor, straight into the cylinder head, and from there, right into the combustion chamber. So if dirty air is going through your air filter, they're washing a bike and it's really noisy. So I'm trying to, get this in between. Goes right in and could hit the piston, and then you got crap in there, and that's bad. Thanks again to Morton's BMW. Thanks for watching this video. please renew your MOA membership, because that helps support all of these videos and everything else that we do for the members of the MOA. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time.